Greetings, everybody. It's time to face some basic realities about our Hamilton Public Schools. They aren't what they used to be. They don't handle the basics very well. Too many of our students are not getting the math, English, and the other skills they need for success at college, or on the job, or in our own community. Performance is below New Jersey averages across the board. There are just too many distractions and experiments going on. We can do better. We have to do better, but we need to see the problem more clearly. I'm John Muka, a lifelong Hamilton resident. I've attended most of the school board meetings for the past 2 years, and I want to tell you what I've learned in that time. So let's just start with how much we spend on those schools, and where that money is coming from. And then we can face the facts on how well the schools are actually performing. Now, Superintendent Dr. Scott Rocco presented this slide in April as part of getting the budget approved. At the top on the right-hand column, you'll see that the total spending in this budget is $286 million. Yes, Hamilton schools are a big operation. But where do we get this money from? Well, one source we know is anticipated revenues. And this isn't what it sounds like. Anticipated revenues is state funding. And there is $153 million of it in this budget. The other source is $132 million of taxes to be raised. And you won't be surprised that these are the taxes to be raised directly from your property taxes. Now, of course, every dollar of the $286 million is from taxes. That's where the state money comes from. It comes from your taxes. They give it back to us along with various mandates and controls, and how much of it we get each year is never completely predictable. So let's add a little bit more context. We have $286 million of tax funding divided by 40,900 households in Hamilton. And that works out to an average of about $7,000. $7,000 of total tax burden for you, whether you have kids in our public schools or not. Now let's add a little bit more context. Let's do a comparison. Let's compare the 2024 school year with the most recent school year of 2023-24. Now the total budget, by comparison, is up by 10.9% over the previous year. And most of this funding is coming from most of the increase in this funding is coming from an 18.4% increase in that state funding. Now, your property taxes are going to be going up too by 3.3%. And you're supposed to feel good that that's only a 3.3% increase. The reality is your tax burden is going to go up by 10.9% because all of this budget comes from taxes. And also note that the state portion of the budget is now up to 53.7%. Over half of our budget is not under our local control because it comes from Governor Murphy. Now, Governor Murphy wants to fully fund public schools. And what he means by that, he wants to fully control public schools. He's more than halfway there in Hamilton. Now, there's some other issues to think about within these numbers. On this slide, you see that the cost per student comes out to $22,281. That's how much we spend per enrolled student. That's a 7% increase over the previous year. Now, this combines along with an enrollment increase of 3.6%. And the budget is going up because we have more students, and as well as that, it's costing more per student. But why does it cost more per student? Well, one reason is that some students take more time and resources than others. The state aid formula includes factors for this. For example, our English language learners. These are students who speak little or no English. The number of English language learners in Hamilton schools is growing at a faster rate than the total enrollment. School year 2023-24 saw a 34% increase to a total of 964 English language learners. If we project that same rate of increase of 34% across the coming year, by the end of 2025, we're going to have 1,200 English language students, English language learners in our population of students. And that would make up 10% of the total enrollment. Now, there's two other categories known to be included in the state funding. They are the special needs students and the economically disadvantaged students. And the money is available for that, and is probably a very good use for it. The numbers and the trends of these students are not shared by Dr. Rocco. Those numbers do exist because they had to be reported to the state to get the funding. And we can also guess that our trans-identified students are incurring additional costs for counseling, for record keeping, and for the whole affirmation process. And these numbers are also known internally, but not shared with the public. So just to summarize, we have a $286 million budget, and it's all coming from taxes. It's a tax burden that works out to $7,000 per household in Hamilton. We spend $22,000 per student each year. And for a 12-year education in the public schools, it's going to cost $264,000. That's the total price tag for a public school education in Hamilton. And all of this is intended as an investment. It's an investment in our kids and in the future of our community. But how well is this investment actually paying off in terms of giving the students those basic skills and experiences that they really need at the high school level? Well, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment will give us some ideas, and we're going to focus on the reports from that in the next section here. Now, back in February, Mr. Anthony Scotto, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, he presented the 2023 assessment results. And again, that was back in February. Now, note what's presented is from an assessment, the testing, that was made a year ago in the spring of 2023. And he included both the math and the English of these assessment scores that came back. Now, these assessments were reported using a 5-level scale. And the scale, it ranges from a low side of did not meet expectations to a high of 5 for exceeded expectations, and it moves along those 5 levels. And those expectations are grade level objective standards of performance that are specifically tested during these assessments. So here's what Mr. Scotto provided to us next. This is the 5 levels applied to the 2023 math assessments for our Hamilton grades 3 through 5. And he also provided those same things for grades 6 through 8. And as you can plainly see, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, maybe it's just really hard to figure out. The levels may serve a diagnostic purpose, but at this amount of detail, it's hard to judge how well we're doing overall. Now, to better grasp what's really going on, maybe we should start by more carefully reviewing this 5-level scale. Now, levels 4 and 5 themselves are pretty clear. So, just to simplify, let's add the numbers together from these two categories into one category we can call met or exceeded expectations. These are the students performing at or above their grade level. The other 3 are different ways of not performing at grade level. Level 2 is met some but not all of the expectations. Level 3 sounds similar, met more but not all the expectations. And what about level 1? Did not meet expectations. Well, since level 2 already covers partially met expectations, level 1 can only mean did not meet any expectations, could not perform any of the standards tested at that grade level. So just to clarify overall performance of our students, let's add these percentages together also and call it did not meet all expectations. So now we have just the 2 categories, met or exceeded, or did not meet all the expectations. Now we can go back to Mr. Scotto's slides and start looking at these numbers a little bit better. So let's start by looking at the numbers for grades 3 through 5 in math, and let's focus first on the numbers in black under level 1. These are the percent of Hamilton students not meeting any of their grade level expectations. Now just look at those numbers. Almost 20% of the students in grades 3, 4, and 5 tested as not meeting any of the expectations, meaning not able to perform any of the standards that were tested. And these students are doing worse than the New Jersey averages shown in blue. Now, especially in math, not getting the basics means not being able to do the higher levels of math operations. All right, so let's do some of that basic addition and simplify all this down, all these 5 levels down to just those 2 categories. All right, so now we can see the percentages that fall into each of those 2 categories. And let's zoom in on that. Percent failed versus percent met or exceeded. And what does that start to show us? Well, simply, it shows us that for math, only 1/3 of our 3rd graders are at grade level. 2/3 are not. And only 1/4 of our 4th and 5th graders are performing at or above grade level. 3/4 of them are not at grade level. Is this the level of performance that you were expecting to see? Also, we're not doing well compared to those state averages. Now let's look at grades 6 through 8 and do the same thing. It gets worse. So here's the original slide from Mr. Scotto's presentation, and this covers math grades 6 through 8. When we do the same analysis, these are the results that we can see. So in these upper grades, just 24.8, 19, and 12.2% of the students tested able to perform at their grade level standards. The rest failed at one or more of the standards. And for some reason, the 8th grade are the worst. 87.8% not performing at grade level, and 35.9% of these 8th graders in that first column, apparently they couldn't do any of the expected standards. That's 1/3 of the 8th grade class. These are the students that were freshmen in high school this year. So with those deficiencies, the majority of our Hamilton students are going to have a hard time finding success in technical fields like engineering, science, and medicine. So here's a basic summary of all of these scores all together, and you could see that none of them are telling us a very happy story. These are all of the math scores from 2023, and even it shows the percentages stuck at level 1. Now, you can see that the high school geometry and algebra 2 students are doing a bit better, but they're not doing great either. Obviously, how we get kids to learn math should be discussed often at school board meetings, and it almost never is. Now, the same approach can be applied to what Mr. Scotto gave us for the English Language Arts assessment. Here's what we have for grades 3 through 5. And we can also look at grades 6 through 8 here. And this is the summary slide that puts it all together in one place. Again, just scan down these columns. And what it shows pretty clearly is that over 50% of our students can't perform all the standards required at their grade level. And 26% of 3rd graders can't perform any of the standards that they're expected to meet. So what we can see is that met no expectations, these percents are significant in the other 5 grades as well. So we have a $286 million budget, an average of $7,000 of tax burden per household, $22,000 a year per student, and a total of $264,000 for 12 years of our public schools. And overall, 75% can't perform all their math expectations per grade level, and more than 50% fail to perform all of their English expectations. Is it time to take responsibility for our Hamilton schools again? Don't we need a school board majority that will ask difficult questions, communicate, challenge what's going on instead of just going along with it? And I would have to say the current 7-person majority are simply not those people. They are good people. They're making bad decisions while focused on all the wrong things. We can do better, and we need to do better. We need to do better as a community, taking responsibility for this educational process.